Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty combatants. On the left-hand side, we have Ben the Barman bringing the forces of Clan Rectus to bear on Super Hans and his vampire counts. A really interesting matchup, the Skaven versus vampire counts, as it tends to become a Blob versus Blob matchup, and that's pretty much what we have here. Now, it's not quite a complete Death Star, but for the most part, it is going to be a bad-to-the-bones, close combat Skaven build to take the fight to the undead hordes. So let's hop in here and have a little look at the build. So in the front line, we do have cheap and very uncheerful Skaven slaves. These guys are literally bred and born to die. They're here just to absorb some of the initial charge from the enemy and buffer between themselves and the more expensive troops in the central portion of this build. And at the same time, added numbers will eventually grind down zombies and other such units. In the central portion of the build is a big mixture of different units here. We have Poison Wind Globadiers, who are incredibly powerful if able to fire for the entire game. They do have an incredibly short range, however. We have the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, the Regiment of Renowned Rat Ogres, an absolute staple now in Skaven gameplay, it would see. We also have the Council Guard, Regiment of Renowned Storm Vermin in the central pocket, and I can't stress how important it is to have an unbreakable unit in a faction which tends to have low leadership. It's a real solid backbone to any build. We also have a Packmaster in the centre here. He comes in with anti-large. In fact, is that two Packmasters? No, just the one. So just the one Packmaster, but he also comes in with Shock Collar, which is really nice, given that immune to psychology, as well as buffing the melee attack and leadership of a Clan Molder monster. Also running with the Pack does give that lovely restore, and we have a lot of big Clan Molder units to bring to bear. We have a Hell Pit Abomination on one flank, and on the other, we also have another Hell Pit Abomination, so the fearsome double Hell Pit build. More Rat Ogres, as well as a Plague Priest on his Glorious Furnace here, rolling uphill. Coming with Pestilent Birth, as well as Vermintide. These are probably the two most common spelled picks, but we also have Pestilent Breath as well to help grind through the enemy battle line. But leading this horrific force, who is it going to be? It is none other than Tretch Craventail, one of the worst lords in the entire game, but he's come in with Standard or Die, as well as Tretch Raiders here, trying to boost some of his nearby allies, I suppose, and lead them to glory. So really fun build by Ben. And the vampire counts, where are they? They are hidden amongst the trees. They must be raised some wood elves from the dead. And then the front line, to match the Skaven slaves in Despair and Disparity, is a ton of zombies dotted all the way along, and it is not really a Vampire Counts build unless you have some of the bad-ass zombies to bring to the fray. Apart from that, we do have Skeleton Spearmen and then a big old fat chunk of Graveguard dotted along here. Looks like we have one unit with great weapons, but the rest are going to be the standard shielded variety. These guys are going to be looking to grind through the Skaven forces. Up in the skies, you do have double Fellbat to harass the back line, although it's pretty non-existent for this Skaven force. We also have double Blood Knights, and they've been chevroned up, so these elite vampire cavalry are going to be looking to do some massive shock damage. For the leadership core, we do have double White King, being a bodyguard for Vlad von Karstein, which is a pretty common pick at the moment as well. I'm a big fan of the new Vlad, and the fact he is so much more tanky. He's coming with Gaze on the Gash, as well as Invocation from the Heck, and of course comes in with Blood Drinker to help regenerate himself up, so awesome build all around as well. Looks like they want to take the fight through the forest for now. Probably expecting a more ranged-centric Skaven build, so looking for the cover of the forest to begin with, before harassing with Fellbats and getting all the Blood Knights around the side. The entire force is pretty much hidden at the moment between the thick foliage of trees. But the Skaven are going to take the initiative here. They are a much faster faction than the Vampire Counts, and are going to be taking it to the high ground, sitting and waiting for the Counts to advance. But it looks like both formations are at the moment just reorganising their ranks. Some Skaven slaves are being sacrificed to the trees here, pushing through just to make sure there's nothing lurking here in Vanguard, which is some really good experienced play here coming in by Ben. Checking out all surroundings before coming back and focusing on the main threat. Blood Knights are trying to whip around to the open plain where they'll be far more effective over on this side. Might even go stomp that unit of Skaven slaves if they're not too careful, but they are going to be very quickly scurrying back to the main formation. Apart from that, it looks like Skaven are slowly advancing here, not wanting to take the fight to the trees, obviously, because they have so many large creatures to bear. The Vampire Counts, at the same time, not really wanting to advance just yet. Want to scout first with their Fellbats, get ready to hop down on top of the Poison Wind Globadiers, no doubt. And the Blood Knights are just happily, at the moment, repositioning themselves. So Fellbats are flying over top at the moment. Quite a slow start to the battle, but it is to be expected with such forces. Ready for a big old melee slog here. The Hell Pits are going to be a massive pain to take down. Those Blood Knights going to have to take the initiative and lance them down as quickly as possible. But the problem with that is there's so many Rat Ogres dotted around this battle. You've got the Council Guard as well, who can swarm in and do a really good job of dragging you down. Skaven now kind of coming up to this little ridge line here and threatening the Counts. just insulting them, trying to drag them out into the light. And it looks like it is going to work. Vlad von Carstein is starting to advance here as the forces of the Skaven do move to match them. Felbats have just been swooping around. It looks like the Blood Knights are going for a real long walk for some reason, all the way into the corner. Perhaps they misclick, or maybe they want to whip all the way up and around to slam down home on these Skaven lines, which would certainly work. And it looks like that's actually what they're doing. They're going to be sneaking through the forest now to come in for a rear attack. But the battle has begun. A summon of clan rats is going to dart through these zombies, trying to slow them down and bog in the grave god where possible to allow the Skaven to quickly deal with the zombies before that secondary battle line can hit. Rat Ogres are even going in for a frontal assault, and we have the ultimate battle of elite warriors, zombies versus Skaven slaves. It is pretty disgusting stuff for sure. But in comes the Plague Furnace as well, focusing down at some zombies, although a big Gaze in the Gash does come in, clipping some of the Council Guard. Looks like it may have been going after Tretch and did unfortunately miss there. Hell Pits are starting to reposition as well, getting prepared for the Blood Knight onslaught in the rear here. But Skaven Slayer is not doing a terrible job. Skeleton Spearmen will be able to chew through them relatively effectively. And look at the mighty Tretch getting in there up against the Grave Guard with the assistance of the Plague Priest, and it looks like the Poison Wind Globadiers as well. They have deleted this unit of Grave Guard with some real good deadly efficiency here. But then swarm the rest of the counts. We have the White King as well as Vlad von Carstein starting to push in, although some clan rats are summoned once again, being used to bog in all of these grave guards, which is really well done because now the Poison Wind Mortars, or Poison Wind Globadiers, sorry, can launch shots over onto these elite troops. Blood Knights, though, are going to start swarming into the back line. Felbats need to commit as well here to try and hammer down in one fell swoop. And over on this flank, the vampire counts are starting to break through. Should be able to force through the line and start surrounding a lot of this Skaven build. But Felbats still just floating. Blood Knights are just floating as well for now. Need to get in here and start doing some of that glorious damage and getting a bit aggressive. It looks like the Vampire Counts player wants to wait for his Graveguard front line to hit first before he commits. But because of good summons here by the Skaven, that isn't currently possible. Poison Wind Globadier is actually going after Felbats, but in come the Blood Knights, just slaughtering some Skaven slaves before peeling out wide, looking to hammer down this flank and really allow these Graveguard and other elite troops to start swarming through to get a nice fat surround. But Pit Fighters as well as Hell Pits looking incredibly healthy so far. The mighty Tretch is running for his life. There is double White King and Vlad von Carstein after him, and all he has is his elite Council Guard for protection. Tretch taking some huge hits straight out the gate. The Hell Pit Abomination is here for a little bit of assistance, and Graveguard do swarm in, starting to surround the Plague Priest now that they finally force their way through the front lines. Blood Knights can't be used to chase down Skaven slaves. Not the best use of their time, I don't think. These guys need to be hammering home over and over and over again into this Skaven force. Yes, it's good to shatter your opponent's forces, but not if you're, wasting a huge amount of value and time there. White Kings are starting to struggle, surrounded by the Council Guard and getting gooned by the double Hell Pit Abomination. Clan Rats are just trying to hold back the Grave Guard, although a big Invocation Heck has come down on this infantry blob. The White Kings getting some of that healing as well here. Blood Knights now starting to come back into the fray, which is good news for them. Tretch Craventail is just lurking on the wings here. Looks like he's going to be going in for a glorious charge, though. When he's near the Hell Pits, I'm sure he has a big boost of morale to come in and actually fight. And the White Kings not having the greatest time. Now, of course, anti-infantry, which will be good up against the Council Guard, but not so good up against the Hell Pits and so forth. Poison Wind Globadiers have been shut down relatively effectively. It looks like they are going to have to scurry away with still 31 of their models left alive here. So, we're going to have to see what happens here, as the Ravagers are doing a decent job finishing off kind of units in the back and just slowing down and breaking up the Vampire Count Assault. But we do have the Blood Knights, incredibly healthy at this point, going to come streaming back in, and they're going to be very good against the majority of this force. Scavascape does come down by one of the White Kings, clearing a few clan rats there, although it looks like the White Kings are indeed going to be going down. The much more tanky Vlad still standing strong, however, doing some pretty decent damage as well to that Hell Pit Abomination, and in come the Blood Knights now for that glorious rear charge into the clan rats, going to break them very quickly from the battle. Packmaster is getting low, but a nice summon of clan rats from the Skaven player is going to be forcing back the Blood Knights, who have been hit as well by the Poison Wind Globadiers, who have been allowed to reposition here in this little gullet, being protected by the Rat Ogres as well. And it's looking a little bit rough for the Vampire Counts straight out of the gate. Their units didn't really fight with too good synergy, but we have to see if Blood Knights can pull it back in a late game revival here. Vlad von Carson just in the middle of this pure mess of carnage. Skaven and undead forces grinding against each other. It looks like we're going to see yet another clan rat summon. Well, looks like this time it is a plague monk summon, and they're going to quite happily chew through the remainder of this vampire count build here. Blood Knights do come streaming down the hill, finally getting to shut down those Poison Wing Globadiers, which is a really good pick by them. These guys have done some ridiculous damage straight for the first half of the battlefield here. Up to 3,000 damage value already is insane stuff on a unit which is so definitely cheap. The Plague Priest not doing a too bad job as well, just clearing up some of these skeleton spearmen. It looks like the majority of the Vampire Count's forces have been broken. It is simply a matter of the Blood Knights, who are currently getting gooned by double Hell Pit Abomination, and the Hero Corps fighting strong. But the Packmaster is going low. Looks like the Pitfires are held deep as well, have taken a bit of a hammering, but the Hell Pits being so healthy is really quite scary here at this moment. Craven Tail, keep forgetting his name because you never see him played at all, is now going to be charging into that glorious hand-to-hand combat up against the elite vampires of the Blood Knights, and single-handedly he will claim he slew them all. And it looks like that is indeed going to be game. Armor losses kicks in, and a nice close victory for the forces of the Skaven. So 2 interesting styles of play, and a really fun game all round. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We do new videos every single day, and if you want to support the channel in any other way, you can do that via my Patreon. There's a link down below in the description, or you can become a channel member on YouTube. So yeah, all cool stuff. But anyway, for the builds, well played both to Super Hands and Ben the Barman. I think the Skaven just got the upper hand for a few key reasons. Let's go through them now. Basically, the Plague Priest summons were very effective. They kept back a lot of the elite troops of Graveguard. So often Vampire Council, they will do is swarm in with zombies on the front line, and then their secondary line will saturate on top of that, and that's where you get the value. But because the Clan Rat summons went down in the back lines, they force a lot of the Graveguard to get into sticky situations. Graveguard aren't particularly quick. It'd be hard for them to push through a unit of clan rats, plus they'd be taking unnecessary damage that way, so they had to stand and fight, and all the while the Poison Wing Globadiers were launching shots over top, and the Rat Ogres, as well as some of the larger creatures and the Plague Priest, managed to butcher the zombie front line. Then all of a sudden the Graveguard are isolated and fighting alone, and yes, they're elite, and they can get some good damage value, or damage dealt, sorry, but pretty poor damage value across the board, because they're not just facing chaff whilst big monsters smash them down, because they didn't have the support of these zombies to work as those glorious meat shields. Now the Blood Knights got some pretty good damage dealt, but I think a bit of a misplay here from Super Hands, unfortunately, was the use of the Blood Knights. If they had fought as one with the main battle line, hammering into that back line, pulling back, hammering once again, the Rat Ogres then would have had to commit to either guarding the rear and stopping the army collapsing, in which, of course, they can't jump on top of the Graveguard and shut them down, and all of a sudden the Graveguard start chewing through. So a bit more effective micro with the Blood Knights, and I think Super Hands' build could have been pretty damn good here. I think it was still a nice build, well played to him, but unfortunately getting dragged down by Tretch Craventail, who, of course, is absolutely useless, but he still got in there, did a little bit of damage as well, and had a good laugh. The Packmaster was more of a support character all round, but the real breadwinners here for this build, as ever, were the Poisoned Wind units, which is the Poison Wind Globadiers. 30,000 damage dealt. Now that can, I believe, affect friendly troops as well, but the damage value is the enemy there. 3,000 damage value is insane. They eviscerated those Graveguard, who of course are quite slow and getting bogged down in summons, allowed the Globadiers to do a pretty decent job. Rat Ogres as well as the Hell Pit Abominations were relatively healthy into the late game, and it's a nice little Skaven Death Star. I like the fact they have some range though to support the front line. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.